what I want to shift to is the reason that I have the two of you here, outside of the fact that I just enjoy having the two of you guys to talk to, even if no one else ever listens to these. I really don't care. Actually, this is just great. Look, the opportunity of this conversation is that the two of you have both been on a very challenging journey where you had the coronavirus. My interactions with both of you are that it was not life-threatening, thank goodness, but it was severe. The two of you were tested in ways that I think none of us usually get tested. We've all had the flu, but I think what you both experienced was something much more significant. Now, the fact that you're both here and we're having this conversation is an indication of the fact that you're both okay. So I'm just so glad that both of you are okay. And what I want to do is give you a chance to share a little bit about your journey, what you've discovered. So Jessica, I'll start with you.
Okay.
If you'd be willing to share some of your experience.
Yeah, thanks, Nick, for this opportunity to share my experience. I had a fever for 17 days straight. I'd never had a fever since I was young. So to be honest, I wasn't even really sure what my normal body temperature is, which I thought it was, I'm going to speak in Celsius. I don't remember Fahrenheit anymore, but normally 36.1 or something, which is much lower.
98.6 in the US, yes.
Or 96 point something, because my body temperature is naturally lower. And I remember that because when I was a kid, my mother gave the doctor's office a note that said if Fahrenheit, it was anything higher than 97, that's a fever.
Okay.
But it actually became a complication here because I was afraid people wouldn't take me seriously. So I was seeing basically a degree or two higher in Celsius than I normally do. So it's 38 or 37.6 or something. For me, it was much higher than my normal. Anyway, and I haven't had a fever since I was little. So what made it scary for me, well, there are a couple things that made it scary, but I have a heart condition that I've been living with and typically isn't a life-threatening disease. And it's even one I could have fixed, but I've chosen not to. But then we see the risk categories with corona, and cardiovascular disease is top on the list. So suddenly I'm scared. And so I started actually quarantining myself and my family. So I've got 3 teenagers before I even had symptoms, because I was scared of getting it, even though I'm only 47 years old, and this cardio thing had me worried. And then one of my kids developed a cough. 5 days later, I woke up. My symptoms started out with actually a headache and the grumpiest I've ever been in my life. I started snapping at my family for no reason, and I put myself to bed before noon. And that night I developed a fever, the chills, everything. And I got really scared. It was through the night. Called the doctor in the morning. I got screened 3 times before I could speak with my own doctor, and which was good. They were asking me things, and I have to admit I lied about my temperature because I wanted to talk to my doctor. And he told me, thank goodness, that my cardiovascular disease is not one that put me in a risk category. So that was a huge relief. Here in the Netherlands, they don't test you to see if you actually have the disease unless you are deemed critical. So unless you are actually admitted to the hospital because you need a respirator or something. Thankfully, I never got to that point. So I guess, sorry, this is a long story. I'll try to make it short. I was relieved not to be in a risk category. We decided let's all 5 of us stay at home, even though they hadn't made that a mandate here yet. And that wasn't easy with 3 teenagers. I think my husband had the worst deal of all of us, actually, because I pretty much slept it off up in my roof terrace in the sun. We had this beautiful weather. But so my fever never went away for the first 17 days. I did have different energy level. I was really tired most of the time, and then I would feel like, hey, I can do something, and I would join a call, and 20 minutes into it, I would have to lay down or disconnect somehow. And I was surprised, how tired I was. And then the next day after, I remember one day I did a call, or I was on a call only for 20 minutes. And the next day my fever spiked. I was feeling worse and I was kicking myself. So there's a lot of chatter going on in my head, and I imagine people who are going through this have the same. You're scared. I was wondering, when is this going to get ugly? Trying to figure out when it would get ugly if it does. And then the more I would look, read online to try to find out what are the typical symptoms for a mild case, I would only hear the scary stories, the really sad and tragic ones, and that just made it worse. On day 10, my breathing did get, it was hard to breathe. And I called the doctor. They decided to invite me in. And then I was really embarrassed because I wasn't breathing. It wasn't hard enough. So I learned something that day, which was interesting. If you can walk up a flight of stairs, your breathing is okay. It's not bad enough to warrant hospitalization, which I thought would be good to know. And that was a huge relief because at that point I had sort of shifted from fear of this getting bad to, I did a lot of breathing exercises to manage my heart. I was worried that it would do its thing, which is go from normal to over 200 beats a minute. That's what my condition does sometimes. And I didn't want that to happen. So I was really trying to stay calm. And I would say it was a very reflective experience where I shifted from being afraid of this getting bad and dying to gratitude for simple things like the sun, but my life. I realized I've had a really good life. I'm very grateful for my family, for my experiences, for everything I've been able to do. And although I didn't want to die, I still don't. I got to the point of peace. It would be okay. And then and if I come through this, I want to help others. So I started thinking about what could I do to fill the gaps. So there's really, I noticed that there isn't much support out there for people with what they deem a mild case. It felt heavy, but because I wasn't hospitalized, it's called mild, which is understandable because we don't have enough resources to help the people who are really in serious condition. So I had a couple ideas and I've started to implement them. I can share that later when the time's right.
Thank you for sharing that story. And at this moment in time, you are feeling how?
Feeling so much better. So it's been almost 3 weeks since I had a fever. Okay. And I'm still tired. I don't have my energy I would say it's about 70%. 70%. So, but it's coming back and I did yoga today. And I still can't do downward dog. I still get dizzy when I do that, but I'm working on it. So I'm almost there.
I have a dog that does downward dog really well. I'm like, oh, that's where that thing comes from. You watch the dog stretching, you're like, oh, that was perfect. Okay. Yeah. I was watching you listen to Jessica and I. There's a couple of times where you were really nodding along with her. So I'd love for you to share your journey and some possible similarities and differences from what you experienced.
Thank you. Yes, actually, I was listening to Jessica and I was nodding. Yeah, it happened. And, I was feeling that way. So there were something similar. Mine is that, as you know me, I love traveling and moving and everything. So I spend every month, a week in New York City. And while I'm there, whether it's working with clients or joining live, so I was returning early March, and I arrived, I can tell you because it's in my head, the 9th of March, and at night, and from New York. And then on Wednesday, I start feeling chills. I said, how strange. Immediately an alarm. New York, chills, something can be happening. And in Mexico at that time, I remember there were only, because we're late in the process, so there were only 80 cases of coronavirus in the whole country, okay? So it was not very everybody, okay? So I went to the doctor and said, what's going on? And he said, well, there's a protocol. And then finally they took my test because I got to 39 centigrades. I'm also centigrades. Okay, so 39 centigrade, which is, it feels horrible inside. I don't know if what normal or whatever, but this is high. And he sent me to the hospital and took me positive. And from that on, it was just a terrible fever, just as Jessica. It felt horrible because I was tired, whatever. And and there was nothing to do but just to lock yourself. And I sent everybody outside. There was only one left, which is my dog. And I hope she doesn't bark while we're talking. Okay, she's was my companion, and there was nothing. So it was just very humbling. And we'll go into that, hopefully, to share some of that. But it was just fever, because you don't know where is this going to take you. Exactly. Uncertainty completely about what's next in your life. And can you imagine what goes through your mind? So it was until last Monday, not this Monday, the prior week, that I got my results negative. So coronavirus. But I must say that I got better after about 10 days. I had no fever. So began my normality, and I've been enjoying good health since then. I feel great, but I'm still in quarantine because we're in phase 3 here in Mexico right now. Yeah. So that's it. That's my story about what happened. But by the way, I must say, I never imagined that I will be a significant number in the whole country. So when they told me that I had coronavirus, I was 81 in the whole country. So I became a relevant number at one point. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So Jessica, just for both of you, thank you for sharing your story. I think helping a lot of us understand what is it that this disease feels like. Jessica, just you said you had a couple of insights from your experience. So, well, I'd be curious as to what some of those are.
On a personal level, or the ideas of how I could help others?
Just both, whatever it is you feel like you want to share.
Yeah, okay. So on a personal level, really that I've had a good life, and it would be, I was at peace. I am still at peace. So I have to say, ever since I went through that experience, I'm feeling calm, and I would say more connected with let what will ever happen, happen. What will be. And I really got busy thinking about how can I help others who are going through this after me, and realize there isn't much support out there for people to support them. And I felt myself disconnected from people who didn't understand, right? So for example, my husband, he was doing his best to be empathetic, and he kept saying, you'll be okay. And that was like the worst thing to say to me. You don't know that. No one does, right? So I want to support people who are going through it by asking people to share their survival stories. So like we're doing here, I was so thankful, Nick, for this opportunity. And also Jorge, that you're sharing yours. I think the more that we can talk about those of us who've come through it, can talk about our experiences and help provide some of that clarity. I know that symptoms differ, but I still wanted to know what could they be. And I posted on Facebook, asked people, I want to hear about survival stories, and I only heard one in Finland. That was the only one that all of my friends could find. So I've created a Facebook page just 2 days ago. It's very small right now, but hopefully it'll kick off. And I wrote out my experience. I kept data. So when I was sick, I was entering in my phone my temperature and what was I feeling, my psychological, mental state. Yeah, and I was typing it out 2 days ago, and my dog was sitting on my phone. I didn't know, because I was reading on my phone and then typing it on my computer, and all of a sudden I hear the da-da-da-da-da. My dog was scratching himself, and he deleted the whole second week of my illness data.
No.
So I wrote out my story, and it starts out with a lot of detail, and then the second week is like, well, this is what I remember, and it's based on WhatsApp messages to my family. And anyway, so I'd like to try to provide some comfort by sharing our
So if
example.
somebody wants to find you on Facebook, how would they do that?
My Facebook page is called Supporting Mild COVID-19 Cases. It's
Okay,
very inspiring.
Well, at least it's clear what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Another thing I want to do, if there's interest, is have a group call. So I want to schedule regular calls for people who'd like to connect with other people who have the symptoms. So I have information on that as well on the page.
Okay,
and I'll post that pro bono.
Thank you, Jessica. So that's a little bit about your experience and some of your insights. Jorge, you and I had a conversation last week where we were talking about some of your insights, and it seems there's some similarities between some of the experience you had and what Jessica was talking about. But I'd love you to just share what this taught you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. It's the first thing I wanted to do when I was feeling terrible is to disconnect everything that was TV, radio, and I should say, maybe for some people say, what? Why would you? But I didn't want noise. So I have not watched TV nor radio since early March. And what I wanted to do is just to slow down. And by slow down, I mean, and not have noise and be able to listen to what's really important. So I started listening to things as a result of that and of what mattered. And it was wonderful what I was listening. And one of the things is that we need to eliminate noise and slow down. And it slowed me down, okay? And to hear those voices that are telling us what matters. Second thing, it was very weird, but even on the darkest moment in which my temperature was 39, and I really didn't know, and I had uncertainty of what's next. And believe me, I felt like it crossed my mind. I'm not as young as Jessica, and it felt my mind that it could be the time to go. And how would I feel? And I felt peace. It's just the weirdest thing that even if you're gonna die or not, you feel peace. But I was so grateful because I felt peace, because I felt I had a wonderful life, which I must say I have had. I people were pouring with things, friends, and friendship and love. And also, maybe not everybody experiences that, but that's how I would see it. And also that I have been doing things, and I'm doing things that I love with people that I share, whether you're a client, a friend, or who knows, you know, I'm just living my purpose. And my purpose is to help and serve. And my purpose is to help them connect things and just not to feel, find your whys, you know. So I felt peace. So that's the other thing. I discovered what it is like, how wonderful it can be, okay? Other thing, it made me be more present. I was reading myself, and as a coach, of course, we always talk about, but somehow I feel more present. One of the things I must say this, that I also learned, and as I told you, my purpose from even young is to serve. And we're used to serving and giving and helping and everything. And here I am at the other end now, when I'm feeling in my worst moment, and these people, my friends came, and the day that I locked myself, there were a mountain of food at my door. Water, I still drinking water. I don't know when I'm gonna finish all this water. There are tons of water, mountains of water, and I just finished some of these supplies that these people gave me and they put there. And I tell you, I was feeling, I don't know how to react, because I'm used to serve, not to be served. So I had to learn how to receive.
Wow.
And be intentional and grateful for that, and let them do it. Not say, I don't need more water. I don't, no, let them do it. Why? Because you are helping them, serving you, and being blessed in their lives by serving. So I had to learn to receive. This is weird, but and with a good heart, and because it's part of your purpose to let them do that. So a lot of gratefulness for that. The other thing, I don't want to go on to a long list. I don't know, Nick, if you're going to ask me more, but I'm just into this flow right now. And but one of the things that I felt that has happened to me, I'm very private in terms of, although you see me extrovert, but yeah, but for some things, I like to, they're very, very, very personal, and it's very different. I'm very confidential with about of my clients' material and everything. I just don't, and particularly in my life, okay, in some very personal thing. So one thing that I learned is that you have to share. And Jessica, I was listening to you and basically said, I love it. And so it has made me be more myself and be more authentic. Show it. Don't be afraid of saying what happened, how it is. Because I was not telling people, not by messages and any writing, only the ones that talk to me, I will share. So I felt that I have learned to become more open and be more authentic. And why not be more vulnerable and be, if whatever they criticize, whatever, and humble, because if anything, we learn to be more humble this. So I just became more now vulnerable and open and just be me and share my story. And I found the impact has been so different, okay, because just people want to know, they want to hear, you know, about vulnerabilities, and they want to relate to that. And so it's been, these are some of the things that just come into my mind about my learning, okay? And so the mindset is very important, that you see this as part of your journey, as part of your discovery. Nick calls them the crucibles. There. So it has become one. And why not share it? And why not be vulnerable? So why don't be more you? Okay. So people want that these days. Okay, I feel that's it for me. Okay, those are, sorry to take so long, Nick.
No, it was beautiful. I think, yeah, I'd love, Jessica, any final words from you based on what you've heard from Jorge?
I'm so inspired by your story, Jorge. Thank you for sharing that. I really am. I have two quotes that I'd like to share. One is by Mae West, who is, I think she was a very cool lady. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. And I think that's sort of the space that I came into through this. And another one I came across this morning by Pope Francis. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other, no matter how difficult it is. Life is good when you're happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
Thank you very much. So tell us your purpose one more time.
Crazy waves and angel wings use the magic to fly.
Love that. Jorge, any final words from you?
If I may say again, it's, and I know we're speaking to different audiences, but if there anybody that is a leader, whether it's in an organization or at your home or with your friend, I would say, keep being an authentic leader. Be vulnerable. Humble yourself, okay? And my quote, and you asked for a quote, and it's so interesting, Jessica, because also it's a quote from a spiritual leader. And he maybe not known to many probably, because it's a small group in a congregation, but it's called, his name is President Thomas S. Monson, president of the church, of that church. And anyway, and it goes this way: find joy in the journey today. There is no tomorrow to remember if we do not do something today.
So remind us of your purpose.
My purpose, I'm the curious Cub Scout leader who awakens your passion and helps you connect the dots to find your beautiful why and how. Let's have a blast.
So I want to thank both of you for living your purpose as we speak. So my name is Nick Craig. My purpose is to wake you up, to truly wake you up and have you really, really finally be home. So I hope listening to this podcast has helped all of you listening get a sense of your purpose and being able to connect to it. I want to also just thank the two of you for sharing your stories with us in this moment where having the visible sign of how this can be in a way that is very powerful is a beautiful message for all of us to be able to have. So thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.